Hello, welcome to the Doggy Style Podcast. Join me, Al Berg, and my dog Lola on our adventures through Long Island and New York City. I'll be discussing all sorts of topics that you won't hear anywhere else. Okay, maybe you will. I talk about key principles of success, happiness, and we know we want happiness, persuasion, dogs, my life, some secrets, and many other interesting topics. Come on in. Put your seat back, kick off them shoes. Well, not if you're driving, of course. Take a deep breath, relax, get rid of that stress, and enjoy the ride. Welcome, everybody. This is Al Berg, and this is the Doggy Style Podcast, episode 61. This morning, I recorded episode 61, but I paused it, and episode 61 didn't come out. So this is a retry, do-over, Hindu, whatever you want to call it. Pretty uneventful Monday. It is Monday, June 25th. It's about 5 p.m. and I'm on 6th Avenue. Pretty crowded, and it's a little warm, but not that bad. I could see the Freedom Tower from here. I'm on 38th Street, and I got a nice view of it. So, yeah, so today was not a pretty uneventful day, pretty boring. I'm not feeling great right now. Could be due to lack of food. I didn't eat much today. So let me see if I'll review again what I had started this morning. So last night I tweeted a few things out, and I was trying to be a little bit more risque, I guess you'd call it, and it worked. If working is getting more of a response. So being safe on Twitter doesn't really get you much places, but if you say something that triggers people, you get a lot of response. So I saw that BET Awards was trending, so it looked like it said beta. So I tweeted something like, "Why would a beta male want an award?" And then I said, "This is racist. What if we had wet awards for white entertainment television?" And it got not that many. The better one was something about Pride Day, which was, I think, yesterday or Pride Week. And I said something to the effect of, instead of celebrating your sexuality, why don't you celebrate your achievement? And it was, I got a lot of pushback. And again, I do understand. LBGT people have been oppressed. There's no question about it. And they just celebrate. They have a celebration. I guess I'm just seeing so much of it, keep hearing about it. And even the problem I have at work is that all we hear about is diversity, inclusion, which are basically code words for our sexism and racism against others, where you're judged not on the merits of your work, but on what race you're in, what your sexual identity is, and it's just enough already. I mean, just continuous, and I just felt like I'm just sick of hearing about this stuff. So anyway, so the tweets got me a lot of replies. So if you want replies, you just got to say things that people are going to reply to. If you say the old boring stuff, you're not going to get many replies. And I'm going to do a little quick run to get across 31st Street. I'm kind of walking backwards on Broadway. Broadway kind of cuts across. So if you're on Broadway walking, you're going the wrong way. You're not. You're not. I'm not. I'm actually winding up where I was before. So I have a medical procedure on Thursday. I'm getting a colonoscopy, and if you are over a certain age, you really should get one. It could save your life. Um, One of the things that's been really hard is I'm not supposed to eat seeds, corn, or berries. I'm not sure of something else, and nuts. And it just seems like I keep doing it. So last night I was really hungry. I was looking for something to eat, and it turns out what I normally eat, none of the things I normally eat could I eat. So I normally eat nacho chips as a snack, but they had flax seeds. And then I will eat Quest bars, and they're made from corn. So it was tough. I like to eat a lot of seeds and nuts, and I couldn't eat this stuff. So I wound up eating some cookies, and then I kind of went overboard with the cookies. I try not to eat any carbs or be as low carb as possible. And it turns out that the cookies had macadamia nuts in it I didn't see. So it was like a no-win situation. Just seemed everything. Then the bagel I had some seeds on it. I had a low-carb bagel with seeds. So it was just this non-stop inability to eat anything. So yeah, so hopefully everything will go well with that. I'll post the update of how it goes in a future podcast. So every day I walk and I pass the basically the best pizza place in New York, rated in Time Out magazine, and I never noticed it. So I looked it up on Google and Google Maps, and they have a really nice feature. So Google Maps has like a historical thing where you can see what the place looked like years ago, and I was very surprised how I had thought the bike lanes were something relatively new, but these bike lanes have been there since 2009. And another funny thing, there was kind of a store. There's a store that has had scaffolding up, and I always notice it, and it's been up for probably 7 years. So, oops, sorry. Um, squeeze through some people. Yeah, so it had scaffolding, which is very interesting to see that. Um, and then there's a lot of talk of trade war, trade negotiation. So basically, President Donald Trump, and you could tell fake news will not use the word president. In the newspaper, they'll call him Trump or Trump administration. So President Trump has said that we have very bad trade deals. And I kind of believe that. It just seems to make sense of why the United States doesn't have that many jobs, that all the jobs are in foreign countries. So hey, there's something intuitive that makes sense about that. And so this trade war is going on. Do I know if this is the right thing to do? I don't. The Great Depression was basically, of what my understanding, had something to do with the trade war. So we'll see what happens. Um, so from my mind, anytime the stock market goes down, I'm a little happy because I've missed out on this insane long bull market. So if it does go down, I feel a little bit better. But I feel bad for other people. And the problem is, if the market goes down, is when do you get back in? It's always a problem with timing the market. Yeah, so anyway, so there's a pizza shop, the best pizza in New York, supposedly. I have to stop and try it one of these days when I'm within my weight goal. And speaking of weight goal, I had a I had a wedding to go to, and then last night I ate pretty poorly, but I'm still at least below 170 pounds, 169.8. It's as close as you can get. Hopefully I won't break it. Um, but we got honked at. Yeah, so hopefully I won't break it. And today, hopefully walking, eating light, I'll come back down. I'm actually 4 pounds behind my goal, which is just about what my goal was originally. So I didn't do that well this time. I'm not sure why. I mean, I really pushed it. It just seems like it's been harder to lose weight than it was last time. Um, but I seem to be trending downwards at least. So hopefully that'll work out. One thing I know I dislike are there's a guy at work who wears bow ties, and there's just something about a bow tie. I don't know what it is. Just I'm gonna say offensive, or just don't like it. Don't wear a bow tie. There's just something about it. Not sure what it is. So I said before I lost my morning podcast. It wasn't that upsetting, but it does teach me, or at least show a. Oops, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just show a feature that the recording program could have, and that is if you pause, it should give you some sort of warning. Like I would say that every minute you pause, say pause or something like that, and then I would have known. So I basically got 6 minutes, and then the rest is totally missed. I don't know if I said anything that important, but it would have been nice to have it. So one of the things that I have to start doing is that every night I need to at least do one extra podcast, load one extra podcast up to YouTube. So today I did one, so I have to load two. If I do two podcasts, I have to load three, and then that way I'll eventually catch up. And this is just loading, not commenting or making it nice. Now that's been a very hard thing. The editing and to add pictures. And I'm looking at a very cute baby right now. So I decided that I'm going to really try hard not to pause a podcast. And the main reason for that is if I pause it, it's likely that I might forget. But we'll see. We'll see how that works out. Interesting coincidence is something about forgiveness that has come up. So a guy at work has been to something called the Landmark class. I'm not sure exactly what it is. I know some people say it's a cult. Uh, he's very impressed with it, and I'm sure it costs a lot of money. So he spent a lot of money on something. Hopefully it helps him. And he was talking about forgiveness. He was telling me how you have to forgive people without even, you know, without getting, even if it's not your fault, you still want to forgive them. And he went through this whole thing. Now it's interesting he told me that because in the next couple of days, um, I got, I was listening to a video called Happiness for No Reason. And the Happiness for No Reason was talking about forgiveness also. And then I was also listening to a podcaster or guy named Jesse Lee Peterson, and he also was mentioning forgiveness. So it was this weird triple thing about forgiveness. And basically, if you don't forgive people, you carry that anger with you. Um, and they had methods. I don't know what they are, but I mean, just basically, we need to forgive people. I know it's really hard. It's much easier to carry the anger with you, but it just seems like it can make you happier. I think also The Secret had something on forgiveness. So maybe it was even four things, or maybe I'm mixing up the Happy for No Reason and The Secret, or maybe it was the same thing. Okay, so I got that stuff out of the way. Um, I am going to go over my book again. I'll go through my book and come up with, so the book is called 33 Key Principles for Success. And it's on Amazon. So if you're interested, for 99 cents, you can't go wrong. And I basically have, anytime I feel I have a principle for success, I put it onto a list. I have about 1,300 of them. And then um, I can easily shuffle the list. And so that's what I've done is I've shuffled it. It's really crowded here. I'm going to say 23rd Street without looking. And 6th Avenue. Okay, so the first one I have is item 331, and when I say the number, it's just the number in the list, so you don't have to worry about that. It's for my own usage if I want to find the thing easier. So the first one is office politics. Now, I'm not great at office politics, but I do know it's important. I have a few books on it. And it's just something to consider. If you're not familiar with it, they should teach this in school, but they don't. So I'm going to say what my own understanding of it is it's getting people to side with you, doing the right thing at the right time. Just if you think about politics, what politicians do, it's persuading people. So there's a lot of things that fall into office politics. Kind of really. And so those things in office politics is something very useful to learn. I have a book. I need to read it to improve on my political skills. And I've written something here. Let's see what I got here. So, you know what else I have about office politics? I don't know a lot about it, but I could see political. I could use an example is that it's kind of like playing chess in a way. So you might do something and it causes a reaction, and you might want to plan how to move up the hierarchy at work. So being political might be getting people to go against your competition at work. It seems to be a lot of things in terms of being political that seem helpful. So I don't have much, but I'll talk about as much as I can here. Some of the items I've talked about in other podcasts, so I probably won't say much about them. And I do need a better way to link information. So here I have something in office politics that kind of references other chapters that I've already talked about. And it's really hard to figure out how to organize that. Okay, what is office politics? Figuring out who in the hierarchy has the power. You know where the power is and who reports to whom. You understand the structure of the organization, how they make money, and where the real power lies. So this is something that I'm not that good at, and that is just knowing what the hierarchy is, who reports up the chain, what is the chain. Even if my company is so big, I'm not even really sure where and how we make money. I probably, so there's the probably. I always point that out when I say that. Should read the annual report to learn more about what we do, and try to do some more research. Politics are favors you owe others, and they owe you via the law of reciprocity. Says reciprocation. Yeah, so the law of reciprocity is you do favors for people and you expect favors back. And I think in a nutshell, that's what politics is. Doing favors, getting owed favors. I think the show Billions on Showtime is a good example of all the politics involved in everything, on how the Attorney General works his way using politics, political system, power uh, to bend the situation to his will. Okay, so first subcategory I have is networking. Um, I have software will help you stay in contact with people you used to work with. I always thought that if you kept in touch, so LinkedIn is an example of networking. If you kept in touch somehow with everybody you ever worked with, as your career goes on, you'd be doing very well in terms of connections and having people maybe owe you favors or stuff. So it is important to do people favors without seeking something in return, because those favors, at some point, you can call them back in. So you do want to look to do that for people. You want to create a networking list. So I know this is something I did at work once. I don't know if this is the exact same thing, is that I wrote like a connection, like who likes who doesn't like who. It's kind of a political roadmap. Now, one of the problems I do have in my current company is that my boss works in another state, his manager works in another state, her manager works in another state, so I don't have a lot of visibility to management, so it's not great, and it is what it is. So I'm turning now on 16th Street, kind of a nice, somebody has a Twitter handle, Stonehenge NYC. It's a nice little street art. Next item I have is a new boss, and I've mentioned this before, and I just recently talked about it. I'll try and reference the podcast this is in, but I don't know if I'll be able to. So anyway, so the whole concept of a new boss is that a new boss is like getting a new job. So when you do get a new boss, it's a very bad situation. Okay, now when I say a new boss, I mean you've been on the job, you were hired by some boss, and now somebody else comes in. It might even be a good interview question of how long have you been in this position to the boss, how long have, get a sense of how long he sticks around or she sticks around, because if they're going to hire you, you don't want somebody who's jumping around and then all of a sudden get somebody new. You want to know what the upward mobility is in the company. But at the same time, you don't necessarily want to take your boss's job. You want them to think you're 100% behind them. Okay, and then just basically some books. I don't have any, except for, well, I have one at home. Another one is I have here at Office Politics is reviewing the review process. So how you're reviewed is important. You want to make sure that you're gaming it, and all gaming to me means is that you're doing the things that you're going to get rated on and putting a higher priority on that than something that you're not being rated on. Because if you're rated on doing A, B, or C, you want to work on those things more. Next one is I have a whole chapter on this in my book on bosses' unwritten rules. So you do want to keep track of any rules your boss has that aren't written down, and these are kind of very subtle. Like, can you do this? Can you do that? Or they're asking you, or they criticize something you did. So those are all part of learning your boss's unwritten rules. I always have trouble saying that word, rules. It doesn't come out smoothly. Another part of office politics is getting others to do stuff for you. So in most companies, you could rarely get the job done yourself unless it's small. But in big companies, um, you do need people to help you. So you got to find ways to persuade and learn persuasion techniques because really, if you can't get people to help you in your company, you're screwed. So there's just a few persuasion techniques that I have, and I'll reference them. And so yeah, so learning persuasion is key, very key. Probably one of the most important things you can do. Next one I have is task follow-up. So when you do things or you're given some tasks to do by your boss, it's so important to follow up. I can't understress this or stress this enough because that task won't get done in a lot of cases if you don't follow up. A lot of people are very busy and you might ask them to do something and they won't do it. And they won't do it because they're busy and they forget about it. So if you're not following up with people, you're not doing your job. So if they don't do something, say you ask them, could you do this for me? And they don't do it. There's no excuse to say, well, I told them, here's the email. No, you do have to follow up. And you have to follow up with everybody. So you want to find good techniques for follow-up. So, but one of the things I had said is getting others to do stuff for you. So you want to figure out how to motivate people. Why would this person do this for you? What's in it for them? Basically, is the real question you want to ask. Next one is servicing your users. So whoever uses your product or service, you want to give them very good customer service. It's a great in terms of business. You want to also try and fix root causes, and just in terms of politics, you always want to have solutions, not necessarily just problems. So you want to have the problem and the solution. Um, you do want to understand the company's business and where the money comes from. You also want to know the people in power and try to become familiar and get to know as many of them as possible, however you can. I don't have any techniques here right now, but this is important. The more powerful people you know in your company, the better your life will be. You also want to identify the corporate culture. So every company has a culture. Some companies are fun and games, some are serious business, some are casual. Um, and so that culture, you want to make sure you fit in. And if you don't fit in, you want to fit in. So if everybody's going down for coffee, you don't want to just say, no, I don't drink coffee. Coffee doesn't mean you drink coffee. Coffee means you have a chance to network with your coworkers, complain, uh, um, and connect with people. So now when you talk with senior management, uh, what do you ask them and what do you say? Another thing I have down here is to identify your boss's goals. What are their goals? Are your goals in alignment with theirs? So their goals are probably their boss's goals. So you kind of have to move up the chain and really get a good sense of what they really want deep down. And every so often you will get a chance to meet a senior person. So you do want to be prepared for this. And you don't want to wait till the last minute for this. You want to know what questions you can ask them. Sometimes some companies have what's called a skip level meeting, where you meet with people who work above your boss And you never want to criticize your boss in those meetings. And you want to ask smart questions. A lot of it is preparation. So now I met with a boss who came in, and I'm not sure where I got these from, but so these are some questions you should be able to answer about yourself. What have you done at our company so far? What is your biggest success? What is your biggest failure? What are you good at? What are you bad at? These are also good questions with just interviewing anybody, really. Tell me about yourself. What do you like about the current company? What do you dislike about the current company? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Whew. Oh, jeez. Um, what would be your ideal job? That's a great question anyway, of ideal job. I mean, even for me, I guess I should answer that right now. What would be my ideal job? Um, I guess it would be, first of all, making at least the same money I make now, minimum. Definitely more money. I think I would love to at least double my salary. But again, if you want a lot of money, that comes with risk. Ideally, it would be taking some of the ideas I have and getting a company to back them and implement them. That would be pretty cool. So whether it's something like Listy.net or Success Alarm or any of these ideas I've had, um, or my Excel training idea, I would love for somebody to give me some money and let me develop it. So that could be a goal of mine, which is to see if I could get somebody to invest in me on one of these ideas. Next one is what should I brush up on? So there are a bunch of skills. Um, it's funny that I do have notes from old companies. So I was meeting, this is from a meeting that I was going to have on July 31st, 2001. I guess I got a new boss at the time, and this is what I wrote. Ask about him. His name was Phil. I wrote down that Phil is the master of politics. How else would he get to his current level? That's interesting. So somebody who's at a high level most likely is very good politically. And the higher level somebody is, the higher, the better their political skills are. So if you do want to improve your political skills, find somebody who's willing to train you and teach you. Certainly books are good, but there's no substitute for getting first-hand experience. And if you're starting your career, find people who are good at politics. It's interesting, I was just at a wedding of a guy who's in politics. I would love to talk to him about it. So I'm going to say maybe, I know, Maybe I'm going to interview him and talk about politics, what tips he has, what lessons he's learned, what he could recommend. So, okay, so I wrote down here, Phil wants, and I'm not sure if this was because he actually said it or I just assumed, me to do the work that he requires by his deadline. Confidence, prepared, to work through the chain of command, to be proactive, upbeat and positive, to be in charge and control, to plan. It's funny, when I had this job, I felt like I was pretty high up at the time. It was 17 years ago. I haven't felt that way in a while. Um, to be in charge, in control, to plan. Phil doesn't want to make decisions that I shouldn't make, B, to try to convince him. So I think this is important. I guess some bosses, you got to figure out what kind of boss you have. And some bosses want your input, and this is very individual. Some bosses don't want any input from you. They just want you to worship the ground they walk on. And other bosses want, anytime you have a very good input, to give it to them. Some might even say it, but not really want it. This is a very interesting thing, is that people will say something, but they don't really want it. They say that they want input from you, but they really don't. Uh, okay, Phil wants from me my schedule, my deliverables, what I have outstanding. Phil needs to know promises can't be kept. I'm not sure what that meant. And I have Phil's rules, beliefs. And again, I'm not sure. I think he may have been a coworker. I'm not sure how he got up or moved up or where I got these ideas from. Um, okay, so I'm just gonna stop for a half a second while I cross the street and be a little careful. Presentation is everything. Yeah, some bosses are really keen on presentation, how you present something, how clean it is, how neat it is, how it feels. Um, so if you dress sloppy or you're a little messy, the people who are very into this presentation is everything will not like you. So you almost want to use that as a judgment when you get hired. So if the person that's hiring you um, looks too perfect, every hair in place, the perfect suit, you got to be careful if you don't have that. And on the opposite extreme, the person is a little disheveled, and you're perfectly groomed and not a hair out of place. You don't necessarily want to work for that person either. You do want to prepare for any interview, and I'm going to do a couple of podcasts on that, of some interview questions that I will ask myself, uh, give out the answers and see how it sounds. That's a very important thing to do, is to really do some verbal input and verbal output. So I would read the question, create a list of questions, maybe randomize it, and then see what I say. See how it sounds. Do I have a better answer? Do I have a better way to answer the same question? Political savvy is very important. This is Phil's rules, beliefs. How can this guy make me look even better? Focus on the top 20 clients. And again, I think they said that. So this is if you have a lot of clients, you want to really put your focus. This is the 20/80 rule. I'm not that good, and he said it himself. So it sounds like I was working for him or heard him say these things. I wrote down he's demoted me. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I'm really not sure. I don't remember whether him moving up meant I got a demotion. So it's possible I was reporting to somebody, and then he kind of moved between me and the person I was. And then I have, he hasn't put me on any projects that report to him. Where's your plan? Get the user involved, product visibility, and then there's a guy I used to work with that he didn't like. So if your boss doesn't like somebody that you like, you're in trouble. You want to align yourself with your boss, not with your boss's enemies. So this could be a problem. It's political. But you cannot fraternize with the enemy. No boss if the boss makes it clear they don't like somebody, then you don't like that person also. Again, if you wanted it to be political. Now I have, what do I like as a manager? I hope I don't have this. Oh, good. I was a little concerned that I had this as a public list because I have somebody's name on here, which I wouldn't want public on the internet. What do I like as a manager? Huh. Okay, I'm crossing the street again, so I'm gonna quiet down a little bit for a few seconds. I got a nice view of the Empire State Building, and I'm on 28th, and I'm gonna say 9th Avenue. Okay, so what do I like as a manager? Someone who doesn't go over my head. So, okay, so this is when I was a manager. Yeah, that's a big political mistake. If you go over your boss's head, they're not going to like that. You got to really watch it. I've definitely made some blunders. In a meeting, you got to watch what you say in meetings. I could use better social skills in some way because, you got to watch what you say, especially your boss is in the meeting. You could really piss them off. You say the wrong thing. Got to be careful. Make sure you're not trying to take over. And especially if your boss's boss is there. You don't want to speak up unless your boss says, if the boss says to me, Al, can you elaborate on this? And then I would. But otherwise, you shouldn't. Someone who listens, someone who knows how to prioritize, someone who doesn't need to be babysat, someone who puts the extra effort to deliver software on time. So that's just my list. What don't I like as a manager? Oh, I gotta go here. Okay, so to be criticized by an underling. So this is a no-no. To have a coworker who withholds information. I know that one. Or I had a worker, somebody worked for me who was always trying to take over my job. Not a good idea. Very bad idea. I didn't react to it that badly. But this aggressiveness, you got to watch it if you're trying to take over your manager's job. Whether I did something or not. And the question is why with somebody being so aggressive. So if you're a manager, so she might have been. Um, so sometimes people would do this because they don't like the situation they're in, and they're angry. So you got to make sure you manage it well if you're a manager. So then I just have a list of priorities here that I should have worked on. Okay, so I have I have a table of a question and reasons for yes and reasons for no. So they laid off some woman named Cindy, and the question is, should I complain about the way Cindy was laid off? Yes, he should learn what upset me and why. I'll feel better for it. I look like a no, I look like a complainer. How about the people who lost their job? You know what that means. Next one I have severance pay was lousy. I have not. Should I tell him that Cindy was a good choice? Um, don't judge him. He's much better than me. I probably couldn't do his job and wouldn't want to. Ooh, interesting. So he was very smooth. He was I would say, I don't know, I say a good manager. He was confident. He had a lot of good managerial qualities. He did one thing that was really weird was that he started dating a coworker and like within weeks like got engaged to her. It was very weird. Very strange. I'm not sure why, if it was a marriage of convenience, maybe to become a citizen or something like that. Okay, so how can I get my boss on my side? Um, and then there's just some questions, and this is just general, to always be ready for these questions because you're going to get them from your boss. What are you working on? What are your milestones? When will you deliver these milestones? Then I had some concerns about new location. That I come in late was a concern. That I spend too much time in the bathroom. That I surf the internet. I say here, I will have to work more overtime, no naps at work. I'm not sure what that means. It's kind of funny though. Oh, I don't need to rush, but I should have. Okay. So I must have moved to a new building. I'm not sure the exact details of it, but at some point I moved to a new building. And I'm entering Penn Station now. So if we hear a different quality sound, it'll be because of that. So, like I said, we were moving to a new building, and I had get in early and leave late. No internet surfing. Be the first to get in and the last to leave. I mean, ideally, um, usually you're judged better if you do that. Some places they don't like it. They feel like you're either behind or. So just I have a list of some qualities: confidence, technical experience. Can see the forest from the trees. Can work for the guy named Steve, which I guess was his boss. What business experience? What technical experience? What was the size of the projects? What was the role of the user? What would be my role? What are you working on? This is questions for boss's boss. What do you like to do? What are your goals? What do you think of some software product that we were working on called Cognos? What are your recommendations? So I have something from August 14, 2002. Hmm. I'm angry at work because I didn't get a promotion. Though, did I really deserve one? I'm always trying to find time to work on what I want to work on, but work, home, and kids get in the way. I'm very distracted. It's an addiction. I can never get the free time I need. I wish I could quit and work on my own stuff. Wow. Holy moly. Things don't change. Pretty scary to read something I wrote 16 years ago. And nothing's changed in 16 years. So, if I could say anything, um, if you have goals, you got to kind of reach them. So anyway, I have had said enough. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. The 4 rules I try to live by are: number 1, life is short and goes by extremely fast. 2, if you do what you've done, you get what you've got. 3, step outside the comfort zone. 4, there is only now, so live in the present. Please subscribe and like this video because it helps me and hopefully helps you. Please leave a comment, as I'd love to hear from you. You can follow me on Twitter and Periscope at Alec Berg. To get more information, check out t2do.com. That's 4 characters. The letter T as in Tom, the number 2, D-O, that's t2do.com. See you until next time.